I would like to welcome everybody from all over the world. Appreciate your interest and support of the Alaskan Essences, and I'm having quite a bit of fun putting these presentations together and sharing this information with everyone. It is a nice experience to be in touch, even though it's through this technology, sort of a virtual connection, but to be in touch with the flower essence family or the vibrational essence family around the world is quite an honor and something that I very much look forward to. So I want to start by putting sort of the concept of environmental essences out there so that there's more understanding. And I actually did not pioneer the concept of environmental essences. The first environmental essence was rock water from the Bach Remedies. The whole idea of environmental essences comes from the fact that our environment, whatever it is in terms of the natural world, you might just have a tree that you can see out of a window, or you might be able to see mountains or whatever. But whatever it is in the earth beneath your feet is one of the biggest allies that you have in your healing journey, in your soul journey. So it's a good idea to always be recognizing or developing, is a better word, a relationship with your local environment. And there's also a co-creative aspect to that. If you are a gardener, if you're doing something to interact with the environmental energies around you. So it's something that starts wherever we are. Again, it doesn't matter where you live, and it goes out from there. So the Alaskan environmental essences are unique or distinct because they're made in extremely powerful natural environments. And part of what I would say about these, and I'll mention it a few times and remind people of these basic concepts as we go along, but it's what we call an intact environment. So there's a difference between an environment that has been co-created for 100 years or so in a big city, or several hundred years like London or Sao Paulo, Brazil. And then there's a natural, mostly untouched environment like you might find in Alaska or Canada or Australia. And so we're talking about levels. We're talking about levels of integrity and intact elemental energy. So what the environmental essences are representing is energetic integrity at the highest possible level. It's what we call pure, balanced energy. So that means that the four elements, air, earth, fire, and water, are in balance. They're working together. There may be some of them that are more front and center than the others, but they're all working together in harmony. Now, what that means, I've written a little something here on the next slide to kind of summarize that. Another point while you're reading these words is that humans get a sense, or many of us can have a sense of being separate from the environment. There's a sense of, there's me and my body and my house or my car or whatever the things that I have, my family, things that matter to me. And then there's the streets that I know around my neighborhood, and there's the places that I drive to do my shopping, and hopefully there's some places that you've been on vacation and you've taken the time or had the time to appreciate. But we are not separate. None of us are separate from the environment in any way. And it's not just the natural environment in Alaska, but it's any environment. So any place you've ever been, any picture you've looked at, there's a connection that's been made. But to bring this down to a finer point, we're not separate from the elemental energies that make up all of nature. We're not separate from the landscape. We're not separate from the sky, from the mountains, from the flowers. And the easiest way of understanding that is the last sentence here. We are made up of the same things. We're all composed of the same basic elements. And so we can kind of paint a picture here of we're vibrating, we're energy, and we're in vibration, and we're made up of minerals and water and the different elements working together. And the rest of creation is also made up of the same thing, and we constantly talk to each other. There's a constant conversation going back and forth. And of course, this is happening. Various people have talked about it in terms of the primal part of us, the hindbrain, the more instinctual part of us. And so there's this conversation going on sort of in the background. It's not something you get up in the morning and think about necessarily. But this conversation is going on between the environment and your physical body consciousness. And it's interesting that it's not necessary for the mind to be involved in this conversation. It's actually a good thing that the mind is not involved in this conversation, because it goes along fine without. But what we want to do is bring our awareness to this conversation, and it's simply quieting the mind in order to do that, and just noticing. Of course, it's helping if you're sitting out on the lawn, or if you have a bit of nature around you, to go out and just sit and contemplate. So part of what I'm offering today is a reminder to tune in and notice this conversation that goes on all the time, and it's, sort of listen in and see what's happening. As we become more of a conscious part of this conversation, we can then start to direct, if you will, the environmental energies, the elemental energies, for our own personal healing. So there's a certain amount of general sustenance and nurturing going on in any case, or we wouldn't be alive. But we can start to activate more, and in a maybe the best way of saying it is to become a conscious co-creator with the elemental forces. So again, it's a sense of the ground connecting to Mother Earth, connecting into something that is home. It's a sense of home on this earth, home on this planet, and recognizing that there is a tremendous amount of support, very precise on the one hand, and very all-encompassing on the other hand. In other words, there's nothing that's going on with our beings, with our bodies, with our energy fields, that cannot be helped with the environment, that cannot be helped with the environmental essences. And so breaking it down a little further, when you want to tell your friends after you've seen the webinar, what did you learn? So there's just two things to remember about environmental essences. They have two key qualities, and they're very much intertwined with each other. One is they simply bring energy, so they're energizing. And this quality is really important for a lot of people, because one of the common things that I hear as a therapist and as a teacher is that people are tired and people are lacking vitality. Some aspects of their lives maybe are fine, but there's a lot of seriousness now. There's a lot of worry and concern about what's happening in the world. And we're being challenged every moment, I was going to say every day, but every moment, to learn how to live and fulfill our potential and have fun doing that in a way that is energy efficient. So environmental essences are really helpful for people who have used a lot of their vital forces, a lot of their prenatal chi, if you will, and they're tired. They're lacking vitality. Prenatal chi is what you got from your ancestors, from your blood family. And when it's gone, it's pretty much gone. So we have to be able to cultivate chi and bring new energy in. And so environmental essences are a really good way to do that at a very basic level, at a very sort of deep and common level. So how this shows up in a therapeutic sense is people are coming to a therapist and getting treatment and taking flower essences perhaps, but there's not a strong response to the therapy. There's not a strong response to the different things that are being offered. And basically the person is too tired to respond. There's a need for more vitality in order to bring that work that's being offered through the physical body and to have it show up in terms of something shifting for the person. So first and foremost, pure, clean energy. And there's a beautiful thing that happens when a person takes environmental essence is the body recognizes, again, the body consciousness recognizes that this is clean energy. There's nothing that has to be filtered. It can just be taken in and absorbed quite easily. And so there's an immediate response for a lot of people to just taking a single environmental essence for a fairly short amount of time. Now, of course, if a person is presenting chronic fatigue or something, they've come in the door with strong energy imbalances, then maybe the environmental essences could be used for a longer period of time. It'll be, case by case. But the point being that they're bringing energy in a way that's easy to digest, it's easy to take on, and it's easy to use. The other main quality of the environmental essences is how they balance the inner and outer environment. And so I'll talk about the space clearing piece of this later, but the first piece that needs to be in place is we need to have energy, but we also need to have a sense of our inner environment. And you could look at this just in terms of a sense of a part of you that is cultivating energy and cultivating clear space. And then you can bring the issues and the problems and the concerns and the challenges to that space for healing. This will make a tremendous difference in a person's life if they spend some time cultivating their inner environment for healing. And some people talk about this as practicing immaculate self-care. What kind of self-care rituals do you have? How well do you get along with yourself? How do you speak about yourself and all those things? But this is more of an energetic, balanced environment on the inside. And this will often, as a person goes down this path and says, yeah, I want to do that. That sounds good. And they'll go in and you can do that. You can make that inner environment in the heart, if you would. Any kind of concept that you want to go with. But the person starts to pay attention. They go, oh, there's a bunch of energies or things going on in here that I don't really need, or they're not making much sense. So you can use the environmental essences to clear that out. So it's clearing out the old, whatever was just sort of sitting there. It's like going into a room in your house or your apartment that you've not been into for several months. You want to go in and sweep up the dust and so on. So to create an inner environment that is balanced, that is grounded, that is connected up to the forces, that'll make any kind of difficult process much, much easier. And then, of course, the second part of the second piece is that we can extend that out to our outer environment, the places we live, the places we work, any place that we spend time in our cars or whatever. And we can use the environmental essences to actually clear and bring elemental balance to those places that we're spending time on the planet. So you start to get a sense of there's something generally magnificent being offered here, but also something very unique with each one. But we're simply asking that energy, we're identifying that energy and asking it to come into the bowl. And then that is preserved in the same way that we would a flower or a gem essence. And I want to continue to just sort of introduce the essences themselves, and some of this stuff will start to make more sense. So, Northern Lights, I did not take this picture. I wish I did. But this is a man who's famous for taking Northern Lights pictures. One of the best reasons to go to Alaska or be in Alaska in the winter is to see the Northern Lights. And they're happening all the time, but in the summer you can't see them because it's too light. It doesn't get dark in Alaska from April until August. So this is a phenomenon that's happening at the North and the South Pole. And it's basically solar wind, very powerful solar energy coming from the sun across the expanse of space, hitting the polar ice cap and translating from there into the atmosphere and creating these amazing displays of color. Now, this is primordial energy. We call it creation energy. It is creation energy in the sense that the sun, without the sun, we would not have anything happening on this planet. And so it's a very basic energy, very core energy. If you talk about the conversation again that we're having with the environment, we have a conversation with the sun every day. We have a conversation with the sky, with the moon, and with this energy that's coming through as the Northern Lights. Now, you have different colors of Northern Lights, and this one is green. The different displays, you can have multicolors in the same display, but this one is green. And so it's working with the heart and working with the layers of energetic interference that have been not something that's been a conscious process, but they've been put on or allowed to be put on over a longer period of time until the heart is having a hard time expressing out, having a hard time making connection to other people. And so it's a situation that is quite common. And I want to tell a really quick story of how I really understood this. And that was in a class with my dear friend and mentor, Denise Lynn. We had a 2-week residential class on space clearing. And the class was, part of the class was to work with spirit animals. And so before doing this experiment or exercise with spirit animals, we broke up into pairs, and I was sitting there with the partner that I was going to work with, and Denise came over to me and she looked at me really intensely and she said, "I can't see you. I can't really see you," and then walked out the door. So I had this very powerful experience with calling some spirit animals in, and one of the messages from the biggest message from the animal that I called in was, "Allow yourself to be seen, I will help you do that." And I realized that I had not knowingly taken on this interference over my heart, but I had held on to it because it gave me a false sense of protection. I thought, well, nobody can see me, so I'm protected. That very powerful experience with the animal took that away, and I felt, oh, I don't have this protection anymore. Oh, I don't really need it. I can actually contact people. I can. There's a sense of connection. This is exactly what this essence is doing. It's helping to lift off any interference that is there, wherever it came from. It doesn't even really matter. And transform old ways of connecting with people and to the outside world, connecting with animals, connecting to nature, connecting to the environment. And to put in, and this is where the Northern Lights is delivering this matrix to us, to put in a new energetic matrix of connection based on universal love. So it's saying, okay, the way I connect with myself and everything else is through love. This is a very powerful transformation that people can go through. And there can be a number of different symptoms or things connected to this that will then disappear once the person lifts off this interference and emerges and comes out. The heart forces are literally able to extend out much more strongly once this process has been completed, or at least the beginning of the process has been completed. We have the three-part system of Alaskan Essences, but how we got started was with the flowers, but next came the environmental essences. It wasn't until I had made a few of them and had experienced them that I really started to understand the gift of the environmental essences. And so what I want to do is give you a little bit of an assignment wherever you might be in the world. I want you to take a few moments to tune into your local environment. Maybe you have a place with some land or a little yard. Maybe you have a garden, and of course you're inside, sitting in front of the computer or some device. But just take a few moments to connect with your environment, your natural environment, or the closest natural environment that is around you. Okay, thank you.